Good evening, Keepers of the Cash. Gary B, the casual comic guy here. And joining me this evening, we have Austin Light from American Demon Comics. Good evening. How you doing tonight, Austin? What's up?
Oh, sorry. Yes.
There you go. Now we can hear you.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me on. I'm super excited. So, also a little nervous, but
nothing to be nervous about. We'll say hi to the chat real quick, and then we'll come back and we'll start talking about your Kickstarter.
All right.
All right. So first in this evening, we had Entropy Comics. Kevin, good evening, sir. Nice to see you. One of my favorite people ever, Jerry the Jitterbug. How you doing tonight, Jerry? We have James Las Cruces. Good evening, James. We have Brandon in from Disney Comics. Good evening, Brandon. Now, as people are getting their notifications, and Jerry's telling you not to be nervous. So yes, as people are getting their notifications, I'll just give them a tip of the hat. We won't interrupt you, and we'll let you talk.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry to everyone. I had forgot that I had a link waiting for me, and then I was like, "Where's the link?" And then I didn't realize I had it the whole time. But
worse things have happened. Trust me.
Yeah,
it's a live stream, and all sorts of things have happened before.
Yeah. So, Kickstarter's going good. I will give a little bit of a rundown. This is from the synopsis on the back of Envy. And then we can go from there if you like.
Sure.
So,
let me make it big first.
Okay.
And that way. All right, there you go, sir.
Thank you. Humanity, lost to its conventional wisdom, is unmoved and wavering among the cosmos. Their souls are aimless and poor. The egregious of the underworld find the stasis as an opportunity, and war shifts to conquest, with Lucifer taking over Limbo entirely. With this victory, Lucifer sets his eyes on Earth next. King Belial, Envy, second only to Lucifer, summoned to our reality by the novice druid Fritz. However, once above, Envy is thwarted by divine intervention. In her last breaths, she makes a pact with the druid Fritz to live the life of a human and avoid her rebirth. So the conquest must go on.
Nice. So there's a lot going on with this book, right? So you got the different denominations of heaven, hell, you got limbo, you got the base earth, you got a lot of supernatural elements in here, demonic elements, all characters you developed yourself, you wrote, you drew. But you said this got its start on Webtoons. Do you want to speak a little bit about Webtoons and what that is? Because I think that's a format that a lot of our audience isn't familiar with. If they want to familiarize themselves with some of your work, as along with the Kickstarter.
Okay. Well, Webtoons was the first place that in college in 2019 that I had read it a little bit years prior, but I was like, I wonder how easy or not easy it's to publish something on Webtoons. So I gave it a shot, and I was able to publish my very first version of Envy in 2019. That initial episode has since been deleted. It was not formatted, well written, or anything. Like I just went in blind. But
it was a good learning experience.
Right. And from there, I just tried to get more used to using Webtoons. I was on and off between having another child and going to university, having a full-time job, those things happening over 3 or 4 years. I was like in and out of Webtoons. So I had some long hiatuses, and then in 2022, I was like, I want to be a comic artist. Like, I don't like the full-time job I have right now. I don't like where I see myself in that full-time job. And I feel like there's going to be much of the same everywhere else as far as my local area goes. So I was like, I'm going to be an artist the way that I want to be an artist. And I did have my friend help me have like a little part-time income, but I was like, really living off twigs for a little bit, but
I think that's the economy in general right now.
yeah. And I was like, I got to find another job. There was a forecast that it wouldn't be so slow. He's an insurance adjuster, but it hit the summer. Not a lot of bad weather was happening around the area. So I didn't have work really, but he was still paying me a little bit, but it wasn't enough. So I got another job, my old job back at the gym, and where this is a desk job pretty much, but I had taken the place of somebody who had been there for many, many years. So that came with a good pay raise, that came with some benefits, but it's a desk job. I get to work on my comics there because the directors don't really mind. There's a lot of free time.
Little bonus benefit.
Oh, yes. So I worked diligently on that. But the transfer from Webtoons happened there. I went to a few conventions last year, and at one of the conventions, somebody was like, hey, you need to check out this podcast called Comic Lab. So I did. And at the same convention, I had a lot of people coming up, where's the physical book? This is a comics business, where's the physical book? And I was like, it's on Webtoons, it's for free, you can read it, just go download the app. And it was like getting people to do that was like difficult. And so, to me, it didn't seem like it would be difficult because you have your phone everywhere and it's free. And I don't know, I thought it would be pretty cool. So I thought it was cool. I read some stories on Webtoons, but so I was like, I don't know if this Webtoon thing's going to work. And then I listened to that podcast, and they were like, if you aren't doing a Webtoon that is romance and in a very, very stylized way, then you're going to have a hard time getting traction in Webtoons. And they're like, just post on social media and try and format it for a book. And I was like, well, there I go. I can format it for a book and try and still push it on social media in a way that I can grow an audience where they can read it for free, and they can also get an option to get the book, which would come with bonus art, bonus pages.
Now,
and
I did notice your art has a very Andy Mart and Katie. Sorry, choking right there for a second. I notice you got a very anime style to your art, especially with the lines and how you convey action. So, do you have like a manga background in reading, and that influenced it? Because also with that, it's fits the story with the demons and hell, Lucifer, the limbo. You want to see that kind of action, and I thought the horror elements worked really well, especially when it was kind of out of nowhere, but it's hell. You expect that to happen. And then with the names of the characters being after like the 7 deadly sins. But let's talk about your art style first and how you developed that for this book.
So you would have guessed right. I have primarily had a manga reading kind of background, and like I said, there were some webtoons that I started out with that didn't really go a comic book traditional route, and I really wouldn't call it like they had an anime style, but it wasn't. It had that stasis between the two, kind of like a hybrid of
right. It's got a little of the flavor, but it's not necessarily that.
Right. And other than that, I really had been trying to work on a lot of my figures and stuff all throughout my art career. So as far back as junior high, when I had an interest in comics and drawing and all that as a young child, but actually getting to explore that a little more came in high school and community college and university and everything. So, and I did get into anime in my early 20s, and that also would inspire me. So I had these spurts of inspiration to be like get me into, push me in back into the comic and cartooning world, because I just could never get away from it. Like I said, I have a gym desk or a desk job at a gym, and I was really primarily looking to be in like the fitness world, starting out, and it's like that
Yeah, life
kind of
is
faded
a
out,
detours.
and and the comics never phased out. The the interest in it never phased out. So I was like, well, I can't. This is obviously a passion because I'm not letting go of it, and I really enjoy it. So I did do a lot of art throughout my schooling, and I did realistic portraits. I've done still life. I've done watercolor, um, figure drawing, multiple figure drawing classes, just tons of exposure to all that. But and then graphic design. So I learned what the print world was like, having to set up documents and make logos and that kind of thing.
And now I noticed too, you know, black and white fits the style well. So I am a big fan of black and white, just from being a 70s and 80s kid and reading the old magazines. And I've read quite a bit of manga myself in the day. A lot of horror like Mermaid Forest, stuff like that. Stuff that I really attached to back then. And but so you got your main character Envy. Now, was she just something you got inspired about instantly and just kind of drew her up? Was she influenced by a couple different people? Or is she the form of a couple different projects you worked on, and then you amalgamated her? How did Envy come about? And she's the central character we're following, so this is going to be about her struggle and what she wants.
Mm-hmm.
With all this other supernatural and demonic and heavenly stuff going on around her. So there's some world building in this as well.
Yeah. So with Envy being the main character, thank you, Katie. She's an entity that came up in university with me, because it was something that I had kind of thought about. Envy in particular, I could never grasp like certain aspects of art the way that I wanted to, and I was always envious of other people, envious of how maybe some people could market around weaknesses, and or how somebody just have raw talent that is just this makes beautiful work after work after work, like can just pump them out, you know, in days. And part of me was like very envious that I wanted to have a life where I could just work on this stuff and pump it out. Like I just want to be able to work on this stuff and live that life. And I was very envious of that. And so that's where I kind of inserted my perspective into this character. But I kept making these purple and pink demons in university. I always tried to kind of find a workaround in some project to kind of have a reason to make this character, or a similar character. Lust was also developed in university, and it's just been really fun getting to kind of design them over time, with each new phase of me doing comics. So that's how she kind of came to fruition.
Right. So you got issue 1 on the Kickstarter. You got issue 2 as well, which is nearing completion. And how many issues is this story planned to cover?
I want it to be wrapped up in, at the earliest, 3 years, maybe 5 years. So that could stretch you know, if I'm going at a pace of about 2 or let's say 60 to 70 pages a year, that could be about 2 or 3 issues a year, and that would be
Oh, so you're
10.
you're pretty regular on producing this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 2 to 3 issues a year for indie comics, really good.
Well, I appreciate it. I mean, there's things that it's like, as you do it, you learn better and quicker ways to do it. And then, but once you do that, then you find another challenge that you try and push yourself to do. So that's kind of my outline of the of the development process, and trying to stay growing with the craft. But I just have a story I want to get out.
Right, I was gonna say, yeah, because I mean, the first issue I read, when it ends, you're definitely left with questions that you want to see answered for Envy, and her and Lust have a fun thing going on with their interactions and the way they talk to each other. So you want to see that relationship, but this is a story ultimately about what Envy wants, is she kind of covets becoming something other than what she is. I'm not trying to spoil anything for anyone else. We'll let people find out for themselves, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But she's got her own ambitions, which don't necessarily fit into what her role is with Lucifer and Belial.
Mm-hmm.
So she's going to have, there's already circumstances being set up that she's going to have to overcome to live the kind of life that she's looking to have.
Mm-hmm.
So is that kind of a reflection on you wanting to live the kind of life you want to live by doing comics, or is just something completely separate? Because and I understand, like, people always want to ask a writer, like, what's your inspiration for a character? Sometimes there isn't one. Sometimes it just pops in your head and it's a free living thing that just grew there out of nowhere. You don't necessarily know why it's there. So was she kind of a freestanding entity that just popped for you, or did you definitely have some things that you drew on for her?
So like I've mentioned before, she was kind of just an original entity in my brain that kind of came out of nothing. But I like to have lore to go off of. I like to have something that has a basis that I can already kind of go off of. And the lore of demons is very deep, and I kind of went down that rabbit hole when I started making more of Envy and trying to write more into the future of her and everything. And that is now what sets her as King Belial, because that's an actual deity once upon a time ago that I can pull lore out of. And
correct, yeah, Belial's in many demonic mythologies.
Mm-hmm. And so is Lust, and Lust is Asmodeus in this world that I've made, because
right.
she's already associated with Asmodeus is already associated with Lust. And so I like making those connections with these characters, just to get a little bit deeper into them and get more out of them, because it's been fun. I've been going through the lesser keys here, where it's kind of like the original handbook, I guess, to find more of this lore that I had no idea about, which is, I feel a little behind or a little ashamed that I kind of was very gravitated towards these demons and entities without ever gone down like Aleister Crowley. Like, right? I'm like, how could I miss this?
Well, you know what? You're not the only. I mean, I don't know much about Aleister Crowley either, but I've always been a big horror guy growing up, and I was never the serial killer guy, like or the plotting killer,
Hmm.
like Jason or Freddy or Michael Myers, which I find to be boring characters. I find them to be mostly one note. They don't. There's no
A
suspense
man
there
after
for
my own
me.
heart.
Right. There's no suspense there for me. They're going to kill the person. There's going to be a last minute stop. I've always been after the more supernatural, demonic stories. Usually, people that are creating those stories will craft a better world for you to live in and experience with the characters than a slasher flick.
Hmm.
Those are popcorn movies, and usually they're forgettable as soon as you watch them. But the ones that take place in the supernatural worlds always feel like they're more fleshed out, like a lot more heart went into them, a lot more thought went into them. And I'm not trying to take away from the slasher flicks; they have their thing. They just don't interest me.
Right.
But the supernatural is always it's always got an atmosphere to it that's tangible, right? Once you're reading it, you really get involved in the world because it's a world you can imagine. It's a
Hmm.
and it's a world that, like any fantasy, it takes you from where you are and it puts you in someone else's shoes, but it helps you live in that world. And I think that's the fun part about the demonic stuff, the supernatural stuff, and there's no limit to what you can create in a world with demons. Because I wanted to get to, you had fun demon designs on your we'll just call it the judging panel, and I really don't want to ruin anything for anyone, but I thought the designs were fun. I thought they were cool. Now, what you have a good balance of is not only are the designs fun, but when it's time for it to be serious and horrific, it is, and it's like that instantly. Um, you have the one girl who I thought was the main character, and that gets switched up, and you're like, oh, okay, it's about this envy
Hmm.
person. So that's a lot of fun. I'm definitely looking forward to issue 2, and so I can't wait to read that. I like that. I like that you can live in this world. I thought the minimalism worked well because what's in front of you is what you're meant to look at. There's nothing in there. The action lines were great in the background. They added to what the art was, and they didn't detract from what the story was. So I thought that was nice. So I thought that worked really well. It was fresh, as in I haven't really seen anything like that. Like you mentioned earlier, it was a mix, right? There is a little bit of flavor of the manga style, but there's a lot of Western art in there as well. So you got a good blend of influences in your book. And again, the black and white format really works for me. But what we'll do is I'm going to pull up the Kickstarter. We'll go through it a little bit together, and you can explain the tiers to people, what they can expect, what they can look at. But let's bring that up here, and
Well,
I'm going to go
I
over
really,
here. What's that?
I really appreciate you giving me some feedback because I haven't heard anybody give me some like feedback like that to
Well, yeah, when I look at
work
stuff,
with.
I really look at stuff. I mean, if I was going to have you on, I was going to know what I was talking about, right?
I
So
really
let's
appreciate it.
first of all, let's give credit for this art. Can you I have his link in the description below, but can you speak about this before we play the trailer?
Yeah. So I commissioned Adam Caswell to do the variant cover, and man, he really delivered, and I love his art. I said so. I want to say Brandon had done a review on Bigfoot Knows Karate, and I was uh, very interested by that. So I checked it out, and I went down, through the socials and found more of this art, and I found the artist that Dan had got to do for some of the covers and for the offshoot story, and Adam is that artist, and I'm just so impressed. I was like, I have to have him do a cover. So
And I love the cover. It's a very iconic where it's kind of like statuary that you're looking at, and it just has an old Gothic feel to it.
Which was chef's kiss. Like, he did awesome. He I was like, I gotta have him do whoever he wants to draw. Like, so I send him the what I had already made of issue number 2, and I sent him issue 1, and I was like, whoever you want to make, you make. And he was like, oh, I think this character's cool, I think this character's cool, and but I think this one's really good too. I'm gonna here, I'll just make some thumbnails, and you tell me which ones you like. I was like, fine by me. So he made a thumbnail, and he had that one of Michael's face kind of piercing. The sketch initially had like a very piercing gaze through the eyes, and
Right.
I was like, I like that idea. I like that one. So he was like, okay, all right, cool. I'll go ahead and do it. And he penciled it up a little bit more. I gave him a little bit of feedback, and then he finalized it, and it just turned out awesome.
It did. What I like too is like, so it's got that old Gothic feel, but there's an intensity to the face, which I like.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like something I kind of expect out of a Dario Argento movie or something, you know, like this kind of imagery. So it's like really cool, but really good. We're going to play the trailer now. So I'm going to make this big, and we'll let everyone that's here and on the rewind that's going to watch this view the trailer, and then we'll get right back into it. I'm trying to. There we go. Full screen. All right. Let's play this for everybody.
Issue number 2 of Envy is the origin story. King Belial, king of kings in hell, is brought to our reality by the druid Fritz. Though promptly found by the archangel Michael, she is struck down by divine intervention. Skewered in her eye, she is laying near to death and dusting into ether. The archangel Michael soon leaves, feeling that his work here is done. The druid Fritz soon makes her approach. Offering to make good on their pact, she says, if you live the life of a human, you can avoid reincarnation. And if you live the life of a human, you'll have your demonic soul back. Join in on this journey as Envy has to struggle with her newfound conflictions and problems as a human. Having to deal with what it is to be flesh and have feelings, and to know what pain is and to know what love is. And with each new step, her powers may return. But in order for this conquest of Lucifer to continue, she must have her demonic soul. Will she have to come to a decision between who she serves and her father, or her new connections and her new feelings of what it means to be in the human flesh? So I'm Austin Light, the creator of Envy, and I'm very proud of this project. I've been making it from the writing, scripting, to storyboarding, thumbnailing, and creating the pencils, the inks, every step of creation. Every tier will come with some version of Envy issue number 1, which is more like a prelude. So there will be PDF versions and there will be physical versions, and it just depends on which one you get in the tiers. Or I'll add on this issue number 1 physical print as an add-on. With one of the tiers is the variant cover. And this variant cover was done by Adam Caswell, who you probably know from Bigfoot Knows Karate, which is another great and wonderful independent series, and Adam has been awesome to work with. The variant cover tier is only 40 slots. I'm only ever printing 40. I doubt they're going to sell out, but in the case that you don't have a slot to get them, I'm sorry. The last tier is only 1 slot, and this tier will have everything included: the PDFs, the variant cover, standard cover, issue number 1, physical cover, physical copy, and it'll also come with my original ink of standard issue number 2, and that will be with the process steps of sketching it, the rejected covers, alternate covers, things like this that I didn't fully execute on until the final version of it, but you do have the final version, all those steps leading up to it. Hopefully what comes out of this Kickstarter is not only am I going to be able to print all these wonderful books for you guys and get them to you, but I also want to be able to get like some new t-shirts and some new enamel pins, things like that to be able to sell and promote. So American Demon Comics is my brand. I plan on making more projects in the future. I've got one dealing with Bigfoot in a Western setting that I'm really looking forward to. But that is yet to come. I would like to work on these things side by side. Envy is going to be a 3 to 5 year project, but I could possibly get better and be able to execute both of these things at the same time. Only time will tell. If you want to find more of Envy or continue to be updated on Envy page by page, week by week, it is over at AmericanDemonComics.com, or you can find me on social media at TikTok at American Demon Comics, or on Instagram at American Demon Comics, or at Facebook on American Demon Comics. And with that, thank you so much for watching.
Okay, so we had the pitch there. Now, for everyone that's watching, I do have the links to the Reddit, the Facebook, the Kickstarter, and the Instagram down below to make everything easily accessible to those of you who are watching. Now, Austin, we'll go through this real quick and just show what's going on with this page. So we got 11 days to go. Now, I backed it today, and I don't. Oh, that's because I'm not signed in. That's why it doesn't show. Okay. All right. So we have the blurb, which you already did, but I want to give people some of the art here, just the black and white. Now, I like the panel setups here. I like the close up of the eye. Then you got the drawback. Now, when you were making your panels for this, did you have a distinct idea how they were going to go, or is this kind of a learning process with everything else you were doing from the webtoons?
Yes, everything has been a process trying to get a good idea of it, because it's also it is also a webcomic, so I do have to splice up these panels and figure out what's going to look good in a scrollable like format. So sometimes it's difficult to have overlapping stuff happening, and then sometimes it feels like it's kind of sacrificing my physical comic book page if it's not interesting, to look at every now and then with something different about the composition. So I'm still experimenting with that, but in general, I kind of got the hang of it these last few pages that I've done.
I was gonna say, like this looks really good because you have the close up, you have the pan shot, then you have the deal shot with the word behind it, which I think works really well. I think it adds like some force to it, which is needed in that moment. So I think your instincts are right on. I think that's working well. Also, this reads so well digitally. It's so smooth. Like you're going through it and you don't even realize that you're reading a digital copy at first. You just it's smooth. But so this is our main character here. This is Envy, but that's not
that all the way. By the way,
that's not the form you see her in at first, though. Let's see. Do we have her in her Envy form? Let me scroll down here and let's see.
I believe it would be the next. Yeah.
Right here. Yes, there we go. So that was her. You got her human and her demonic form. Now
she's not human.
What's? Oh, okay. Well, all right.
With
it's cool at the beginning. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Austin.
I'm sorry. There is one of the recent updates. You can find it on like any of those social media, but she does get formed. She makes good on that pact, and she is formed into a human. So there is a form of her in human form right now. She's knocked out though.
I misspoke.
It's okay. No, it's just if
I
anybody's
like
interested to go look.
With the young woman that was in distress, and you're cutting between her and her guardian and the human and her oppressor, we'll say, because I don't want to give anything. I don't want to give much out. But at first, when it starts out, you already have a question going on, like what's happening, and that gets that gets sussed out in those first 20 pages. But Envy is a easy character to like. So she's got a cool demonic design with her horns. She's got striking stances which fit her really well. And I like that I'm a big women of power reader, and I love like Captain Marvel, Spider-Woman, things like that are my jam. I love them quite a bit. I even wrote a horror book that has a strong, powerful female lead that just destroys everything. But what I like about her is when she shows up there, she's got such a personality that everyone that's dealing with her is kind of working around her personality. So she's already got a presence felt for herself. So she's already set apart from all the other characters in the book just by her presence and the way she speaks. So I thought that was well done.
Well, thank you again.
But yes, but we'll keep going through this.
Brandon.
So again, we're talking about some of the action lines, like here with the grip panel, which is just classic, like manga action, even with the whoosh here, and some of the facial expressions. So you got the what to expect. You got the issue 1 included with every tier, with at least a digital PDF.
So
I just went over in the trailer.
There is a caveat.
Yep, go
I
ahead.
did add a tier that's lower than the first 2 PDFs. That's just issue number 2 PDF. So it will not have the issue number 1 included with it. Just if people were wanting to pledge and wanted something, but they didn't want to do $10, there's one step down.
Nice. And we got the 2 covers here. So standard cover is your art. And again, we talked about the B cover. Now let's see. We're going to go down and look at some more art here. And now a lot of action, a lot of setup. Now just classic imagery here. And here we go. We got a peek at Lust here.
I like showing the ones I had the most fun making.
Yeah. Well, I like this too because, you don't know me well, but I love art that breaks panels. Like with her foot breaking the panel. I don't know why. I just love art that breaks panels. So we got your add-ons. You want to speak a little bit about add-ons and tiers for a second?
Yeah. So with the add-ons, I do have these 2 stickers available.
That one's really nice.
And I had added a week ago. I did a test print run with another company that wasn't Comics Wellspring for issue number 1. So I had a different cover put on it just to see how I like the cover, but I'm not going to go with that cover because it's not what I have been doing as issue number 1. So it is a very exclusive cover that came from the test prints that is added on to the add-ons at $15, a variant of issue number 1.
Nice.
And then all the tiers that I went over in the video, very, very up the ladder kind of thing. You go from your digital PDFs to your physical copies, and then to the variant copy, and then the last one has everything in it with the original art of the standard issue number 2 cover.
All right, and like you said, there you have the higher tiers, plus you have that $10 tier, which is in this economy is a great tier for people that want to support someone, but the budget's not always there. So, and like I said, this reads beautifully digitally. The art's clean, the lines are clean, the characters are fun, the movements are very kinetic, so the panels flow, the story flows with the characters. I like so you did the lettering all yourself too with the art, correct? I thought the lettering was was done well, where it fit the story and it was different. It wasn't your standard box like lettering where it's just the same thing. You get expressions through the words in here, like especially with like deal and stuff like that when they're fighting, when they're interacting. So I thought it has a unique feel to it, which is its own, which is nice to set yourself apart in kind of an age where there's a lot that's alike. So well done for going for something different. Well done for setting it in a demon world, which I don't think is explored enough, right? We get so much of the same thing. Having a supernatural comic is fun.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I cannot wait. I've been, with the closure of issue number 2 coming, I have the grand outline made. Like, I've got the basic ideas. What I do with the writing is I take those ideas and then I just try to plant them and see how they're going to water, and then how the vines are going to connect with other plants. So I've been really considering how the next piece of the story is going to go, and I'm super excited to get that out, but I'm not going to divulge too much.
Right. And as you know, when you're writing stuff, sometimes you can have plans, but the characters, they create a voice of their own. And sometimes what you had planned for them isn't right for that character anymore. And
right.
You got to take them on their own path.
Or end them.
Right. Yeah. Whatever the case may be. All right. So we're gonna turn it right back over to you. And as we start wrapping it up here, we're gonna give you give the final pitch for this to get everyone that isn't familiar with you. And I love your comics brand. American Demon Comics is a great name. So talk about one more time where they can find you, why they should back this Kickstarter, and where they can get more information and get more immersed in your worlds.
So right now, Envy is the only ongoing title that I have under the brand, but I do plan on coming out with more titles in the future. Like I said, I have a project for Bigfoot, and Bigfoot in the West, and a very fun story idea I have conjuring for that. Beyond that is another one that was kind of my baby project I've been thinking about since I was like 19, 18. And I chose Envy to be kind of my first one because it's the guinea pig. It's helping me develop my writing skills. It's helping me develop all these skills to make comics and figure out which direction I want to predominantly go in, and how I can kind of tread with being an indie artist and posting some of it free online, and then having exclusives in the books, and maybe having alternate stories that are going to be exclusive, and just kind of figuring out how all this is going to work together. So that way, when I get to these later projects, I can really, really get my skill set put into it. There will not be a Bigfoot knows necromancy, but that wouldn't be. I would very much be on board for whoever does do that story. Yes, so I did post on Instagram today. I did a little bit of studying. I was reading the elucidations of necromancy, and right now that is predominantly going over how to evoke angels, and how to, and what they do, and how they are stationed in the cosmos, and how you line up your circle to first have the season that the angel is a part of, and then the angel's name, and then it goes down like season, month, you know, time of day, all that kind of stuff. As you make the circle closer, it's really cool. But it's not what people think initially of necromancy, or at least not what I ever thought of as necromancy. But it's really fun to look into, and it's gonna be, you know, I'm trying to see where these tools in these books are, how I can use them in the comics. But you know, that may or may not happen. It's just gonna have to.
Right. Well, that's the great thing about fiction. You can create your own way to do it.
Mm-hmm. Which I did. I did have a lot of, you know, a lot of a spin on how they actually use the circles, and just because it has to be, you know, you have to get the story, you know, on some form of structure, but you don't want it to be too by the book, because you know that might take away some of the fun.
Going out of line here with Katie. So many awesome manga that deal with necromancy or summoning.
There are. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of Attack on Titan, of Gargoyles. I talked to to Christopher with Homebrewed Comics the other day, and he was like, I feel a lot of Full Metal Alchemist coming out of this. And
Nice.
I love Full Metal Alchemist. That's a wonderful compliment to me. So if you are into those kind of titles, into those kind of books, and you're enjoying the art, that's why you want to back this Kickstarter, so that it is in your hands. I want these to be able to make it to people that are across the borders, from my state and from my country. And you know, because there's a lot that goes into an online store that I don't quite have down pat yet. And
help a developing author find their voice.
Mm-hmm.
Not find it, develop it.
So this Kickstarter is a wonderful opportunity to get these out to everyone, and also have more projects. You know, if it for it to be funded, I will have like more shirts to offer, more pins to offer. Right now, I do have an enamel pin that if the Kickstarter were to get into stretch goal territory, I do have a little pin of the dagger from issue number 2 that would be an add-on reward for everyone. But we have to fund it first.
Right. Thank you, Jerry. All right, nice. Well, let's end on 2 fun questions. First, favorite horror movie?
Hereditary.
Really? I only laugh because I found that movie completely ridiculous. I laughed out loud in the theater. Everyone looking at me. I'm like, really, this? Now, great performances by great actors.
Mm-hmm.
Completely hated the movie. That's so funny. I was like, oh, it's a cult of naked old people. That's so funny. Like how tastes are different.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So is there a horror villain in movies that unsettles you?
I don't know. I'm just, it's I used to be so scared, like easily when I was a kid, and I stayed away from horror movies. And I started getting into them, you know, about 6-ish, 10-ish years ago. I kind of opened up a little bit more to get more into the horror genre, and nothing has ever actually. Okay, so one that does have a tendency to stick with me are aliens.
Oh yeah.
Because the idea, like, did you watch Dark Skies? I think is what it's called.
That movie?
A movie, Dark
Yeah, I
Skies.
saw it like when it first came out. That was a good movie.
And I love that movie. And the idea that this being would be so, so far removed in advancements of us and our perception that it could just be a phantom is horrifying to me. Like, it is horrifying to me because I personally believe that aliens have a strong possibility of existing. So that's just an extra layer of
Right.
so that does, if I think about it too much, that can stick with me. But not really any like demonic entities. Like, the idea in Hereditary was what got me, was that they were doing a ritual, and that ritual carried on and on, and it fated the boy. I can't remember his name, but the son, it fated
Right.
him to that death and to that place. He couldn't control it. He didn't, because he was not aware of it, and because he hadn't, it just it put him there. And the idea that you couldn't have a hero come save you, you couldn't fight back, you can't do anything to save yourself, was a very terrifying thought, as far as what came out of Hereditary to me. But as far as like an actual being or entity other than aliens, I'm not really bothered anymore.
And see, I'm pretty cast iron when it comes to horror. Like I'm the guy that thought The Exorcist was boring. I watched that as a kid. I'm like, really? This is what people are scared of? So I'm pretty cast iron. I will share with you one that I did find unnerving, which is very rare for me. I'm a huge Clive Barker fan. I've read Clive Barker my whole life since I was 12 years old. Love Clive Barker fiction. But there was a movie called Lord of Illusions, and a supernatural one, and the character Nick's in it, I found super disturbing. And because the people in that movie and in that fiction, they are so possessed by his will. And the shot in that movie that bothered me the most, and it always sticks with me, and I love the movie. But when years have gone by, when Nyx was finally captured and buried and depowered, when he gets dug up and released again, and all these people that followed him in his cult before are getting mentally summoned, and this one person who gets summoned, you just see him, he's in his house, and the next shot is his wife and his kids dead on the floor, bled out. And I was good until the kids. And then I was like, oh.
Yeah.
And that was and I distinctly remember, because I rarely ever get disturbed by anything, because I can never, no matter how good a movie is, I can never disconnect that it's a film. And that's one of the few films that made that leap for me for a few seconds. So
what did you say that the name of that was?
The Lord of Illusions. It is a creepy movie. It is great. It's with Scott Bakula as Harry D'Amour, a character created by Clive Barker. One of Famke Janssen's first movies. Great Kevin J. O'Connor acting in it as well. Just really good film. But to me, it's just AAA horror. I thought it was such a good, effective story. And again, like just the way these people were acting, which is insane. But you shared, so I thought I'd share a little bit. But first of all, let me thank you for coming on tonight. And thank you for letting me read part of the story, so I knew what to ask you and could connect with you on it, and spending some time with the art and the characters. And hopefully, best of luck with you with this project. And the others to come in the future. But, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for your time. I want to thank everyone that showed up in the audience. And if you're catching this on the rewind, this is your first time meeting Austin. Obviously a good dude. Go check out his stuff. Check out Webtoons. Check out his Kickstarter. Check out his Instagram. Every single link I have in the description below that leads to him. Go do a little dive and have a little fun exploring Austin's worlds. All right. But as we'd like to end this thing.
Thank you, Gary, for having me.
You are very welcome.
And thank you for reading it and giving me those wonderful compliments. It really helps me kind of lean into some areas where maybe I wasn't very sure about, so I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a unique voice, so definitely go with it. And, I had a lot of fun with it. Like, you never know when someone that I've turned down people to be on here with Kickstarters because I couldn't stand the book at all.
Oh, no.
And the one thing I can't be is disingenuous to the people viewing. I can't recommend something I don't like. So you're on here. Obviously, I liked what you did. So here you are. I can't wait to read issue 2 because now you got me invested in Envy, and I can't wait to see her story. And I can't wait to see the problems that the other characters are going to create for her. But thank you for coming on. Thank you for your time. And guys, as you know, I end every show the same way. Keep it casual.